very, very special treat for you all today. He's a beloved guest of Louis Armstrong, a man that we love, and we're so blessed to have him back again this year. I cannot give this man the due justice in introducing him and speaking about him. I'm going to allow Ms. Schmerler, who will arrange this, Dr. Murray, to come every year. God bless. Cover that sneeze at least, please. I'm going to, can we all give Ms. Schmerler a round of applause for setting this up for us? We're going to remember to strive, right? Show self-regulation, respect, integrity, vision, empathy. To practice all those things and give the due respect to our speaker, who so generously is giving up his time today. Without further ado, I'm going to have Ms. Schmerler come up and introduce our esteemed guest.
Thank you so much, Ms. Pinella. On behalf of Ms. Pinella, administrators, teachers, and you, the students at Louis Armstrong Middle School, it is my pleasure to welcome our esteemed guest of honor, Dr. Samuel Murray. Today, you will have the privilege of hearing from a man whose life is a testament to resilience, courage, and the unshakable power of the human spirit. Dr. Murray did not just witness history, he's living history. Born and raised in the Jim Crow South, Dr. Murray experienced the harsh realities of segregation and discrimination firsthand. But Dr. Murray refused to let racism define his future. Through sheer determination, education, and an unbreakable spirit, Dr. Murray overcame obstacles that many could not imagine. He earned multiple degrees, including a doctorate in education, and built a distinguished career with the New York City Fire Department. Today, in his retirement, Dr. Murray dedicates his life to sharing his story. And he is here today to teach you about the ongoing fight against racism and injustice. I have had the privilege of knowing Dr. Murray for several years, and I can say with absolute certainty that my life is richer and more meaningful because of him. The wisdom Dr. Murray carries, the lessons he imparts, and the strength he exudes are gifts that not everyone gets to experience. But today, you do. Students, I want you to understand just how lucky you are to be in this room, hearing from someone who has lived through history, fought against injustice, and emerged stronger. Dr. Murray's story is not just something to listen to. It's something to learn from, to be inspired by, and to act upon. Racism is not just a thing of the past. It is a present reality, and it's up to you to stand against it. Whether it targets Black individuals, Jews, Muslims, or any other group, hatred must never go unchallenged, and we must never be silent. As students, you are the future, and you have a responsibility to speak out, to stand up, and to be the change this world so desperately needs. As Dr. King said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So listen closely to Dr. Murray's message. Take in every word, and let today be the moment that inspires you to make a difference. Without further ado, prepare to be inspired and forever change. Here is Dr. Samuel Murray.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning.
It's a pleasure being here. And I extend sincere thanks to your teacher, Ms. Sarah Sherman, for the invitation. I also wish to thank your principal, Ms. Helen Panella, for allowing me to be your guest speaker on this special occasion. I'm truly grateful to all of you, Lee Armstrong Middle School, for your warm welcome. I wish to take this opportunity to thank my friends, Ms. Judy Raines, Grace Masita, and my good friend and neighbor, Mr. Keith Bryant, for being here. I appreciate your support. This is indeed a privilege and an honor to be here again to address a fine group of students who are so well disciplined. During each of my visits, I address a different group, but my message is always the same, and I ask the same questions, ask myself the same questions each time. What can I say to motivate you to continue the good work you're doing? What can I say to inspire you to prepare yourselves to do great things in the future? As I've said to other students in the past, let me say to you today, whatever you try to do, education will be the wind under your wings. It will take you as high and as far as you want to go. So I urge you to prepare yourselves by doing your best every day. Study and work hard, because you'll never know what you can do until you've tried. I wish to encourage all of you to continue searching for the very best education you can find. Remember this, education can and will be more effective than you could ever imagine when it is intertwined with other values to enhance the quality of life. But education alone is not enough. It will not serve you well until it is steeped in charity, hope, peace, and understanding. It should include friendliness. To be effective, education should include discipline, self-control, and respect for others. Be grateful to God for all you have. Seek His help to make your impossible dreams come true. Make it your business to be kind to everyone, particularly to little children, senior citizens, and those who are in need. I cherish the days when I was able to attend school and achieve a formal education because it was far from easy for me. And that time of my life is engraved in my heart as an experience I will never forget, no matter how long I may live. You see, I was born on a small farm in Yemassee, South Carolina. When I entered this world, I was greeted by institutional racism, bigotry, hatred, and extreme poverty. There was no school or any type of formal education in that community for black children. White children in the area were bused out to schools in other districts, but there was no transportation or schools for black children. In Plessy versus Ferguson, the Supreme Court's decision, 1896, ruled that white schools and black schools were required to be separate but equal. But in my community, there was no black school. It took 40 years after that Supreme Court ruling before a school was built in my community. It was a one-room school and it was built when I was 8 years old. Yes, we finally got a school erected in our community, but due to extreme poverty, some of us were unable to attend. And in spite of our many needs and suffering, we received no help from local, state, or federal government. My greatest need was shoes and clothing. And since my family was not able to help me, it became my responsibility, even at 8 years old, to start seeking an education. But how does an 8-year-old earn enough money to buy shoes and clothing? Some of my young friends told me that the local store was paying 2 cents each for the deposit bottles. So I decided to start searching early one morning, see if I could find enough money, enough bottles to earn money to buy a pair of shoes. I searched the community from early morning to late in the afternoon, found a huge bag full of bottles. Because I'd found so many bottles, I felt sure I could have enough money to buy a pair of shoes. I even thought I would have some extra money to buy some cold cuts and reward myself for a hard day's work. It wasn't easy for an 8-year-old to carry that heavy bag of bottles. But the very thought of buying a new pair of shoes gave me strength to carry my load about 1.5 miles to the local grocery store. When I arrived, Mr. Carpenter, the proprietor, was in the rear of the store. He didn't see me come in. So I dumped the bottles on the floor so he could count them. When he saw the bottles, he became very angry and asked, "What is all this junk you brought in my store, boy?" I said, "They are deposit bottles, sir. I was told you'd pay me 2 cents each for bottles." He said, "Yes, for soda pop bottles, but not for those whiskey bottles and others you have there." In addition to the whiskey bottles, and I collected medicine bottles, milk bottles, and others. Among the whole load, I only had 15 soda pop bottles. I collected my 30 cents, put the other bottles back in the bag, took them away and discarded them. This was indeed a very sad time for me because I saw no other way to earn money to buy shoes and clothing. I was obsessed with the idea of going to school ever since I was 6 years old. But I never thought of education as a means to an end. I just wanted to be educated. And I had no explanation for what I felt about learning. In the Baptist church, one would describe my thirst for education as something within. Something within me that holds the reins, something within me that banishes the pain, something within me I cannot explain, All I know, there's something within. After my 9th birthday, I was still unable to earn enough money to buy a pair of shoes. So I decided to attend school barefoot. Even though I was worried about kids laughing at me, I had no choice because there was something driving me to seek an education. And I had to respond to that something within me. So on the day school opened, I waited until my mother was well on her way to work before I left home on my first day of school. I knew she was worried about me not having shoes and kind of clothes I needed for school, so I didn't tell her I was starting school that day. I arrived at school as early as I could in order to have a talk with Miss Wiggins, the teacher, to go through the enrollment process while she had time to do so. My enrollment went well, and I was happy to be placed in kindergarten at 9 years old. I had a successful day, and no one laughed at me for coming to school barefoot. In fact, there were 2 other barefoot boys there. No one laughed at us. Before leaving school that day, Ms. Wiggins gave me a list of items such as pencils, crayons, and notebooks that I would need for schoolwork. The total cost was probably about 50 cents. I knew my mother could afford that much. But there was an additional charge of $1 for books, which created a problem because on her domestic job, she worked between 10 and 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, for a salary of only $3. So going to school would cost approximately 1/2 the salary. When she learned that night that I started school, she was both happy and surprised. But she became very sad as I explained the cost of books plus other items. During the next 2 weeks, she was able to provide enough money for smaller items, but she just couldn't afford $1 for books. Because of my hard work and excellent attendance, I was promoted to the 1st grade before the end of the term. I was promoted to the second grade at the end of the term. 3 years later, after my 12th birthday, I was able to find work on the farm when school was closed, and I was earning $1 a day, and was able to buy my first pair of shoes at 12 years old. I was also able to pay the required $1 for books. And in spite of my difficulties, I never failed a class. I was absent only once between kindergarten and the 5th grade. During the 5th grade, before finishing 5th grade, my Aunt Lucy, who came from another village about 10 miles away, told me that she had completed the 8th grade. So that became my goal, to finish the 8th grade, like Aunt Lucy did. I didn't know how or where I would find a school that would take me through the 8th grade. I was driven to do so. During a conversation with some children from a nearby village called Harrison, they informed me that they were attending a school in Hendersonville, and the highest class there was the 8th grade. Further investigation indicated that the school was about 5 miles from my home, and it was located close to Highway 17, just as my school was. With that information, I decided that when school opened in August, I would attend class in Hendersonville. But I knew my mother would worry about me walking alone to school, so I didn't tell her about my plan until the Saturday before school opened on Monday. When I told her I was going to school on Monday, she said, "But boy, you already finished school." I said, "Yes, Mama, I finished the 5th grade, but there's a school in Hendersonville that has classes through the 8th grade. I'd like to go there." She said, "But Hendersonville is 5 miles from here. How will you get there?" I told her I was not afraid to walk because it was a straight walk along Highway 17. from our village to the school in Hendersonville. However, there was a swampland on each side of the road, and there was no buildings or shelter available in case of emergency. So she was concerned about the possibility of my being kidnapped or injured along the way, but no one to help me. But I made my case that I was not afraid, and I was determined to go. Reluctantly, she gave her approval. I began preparing to attend the new school. Because of the excitement, I had very little sleep that Sunday night. It was up early in the morning and ready to go. With my 2 sandwiches for lunch, I left home running down the lane about 3/4 of a mile to Highway 17. Turned north and ran until I was tired. Then I walked as fast as I could. I was on the road about an hour when some white children on a school bus passed by. I recognized some of the boys because we played softball together on the weekends. With a friendly hello, they called my name as they passed by, traveling north also. Oh, I wish I could have gotten a ride on that bus. I arrived at school about 10:30 and was warmly received. With my 5th grade card showing my work at the roadside school, I was placed in 6th grade without a problem. At the end of the day, I was very happy and pleased to have found a school with friendly teachers and students. As I walked home from school that first day, it seems as if the road to my home had no end. But I had no regrets because I found a school with classes beyond the 8th grade. As I approached our house, I could see Mama at the door with arms folded, waiting for me. She wanted to know how I felt walking the highway alone. Did I have any problems along the way? How did I get along with the teachers and students at school? I told her I had no problem on the road, and the teachers and students were friendly and very nice to me. After supper, I went to bed with so many thoughts on my mind about my first day at school and what to expect in the future. For the next 3 months, Mama watched me running off to school in the mornings, and she waited for me patiently to come home in the evenings. But when I arrived one evening, she was not at a waiting post. She was in bed sick. Because she was sick, the miles I walked to and from school seemed longer, and it was difficult concentrating on my schoolwork. Because of her illness, I wanted to show my appreciation for the sacrifice she made to protect and support my siblings and me after the death of my father at an early age of 42. For those reasons, education became secondary, and I dropped out of school at 15 years old after only 3 months in the 6th grade. I found a job at a place called a sand pit. Walked about 5 miles to work every day. My financial contribution to the household and the cost of Mama's medical help was significant, but her health was not improving. Every day I worried about losing her. Finally, she passed away in mid-December 1943. As the family gathered for the funeral of my brother James, who was home from the army, and my uncle, Reverend Daniel Murray, who lived in New York, made arrangements for me to live with my uncle and his family in New York. 8 months later, I made the move that changed my life forever. When I arrived in New York, I was still on my educational journey with a renewed determination to see just how far I could go. As the journey continues, I encountered great obstacles that tried to bring my journey to an end. But for every obstacle I encountered, there was a miracle. Gave me hope, made me strong again. While living with my uncle, I met his friend, Reverend Richard Johnson, who showed an interest in my questions about schools and education in New York. On some occasions, we attended church together and had long conversations about life in the South and change we found in New York. During one of our conversations, Reverend Johnson offered to tutor me, tried to get me into high school. His offer came as a shock because I never thought I could ever get into high school. At first I just laughed, not because his offer was funny. It was just a kind of nervous reaction. And Reverend Johnson asked me, "What are you laughing for?" I told him that I was 16 years old, had not completed the 6th grade. So I didn't think I could ever get into high school. But if he could teach me how to read and write a little better, I certainly would appreciate that. Reverend Johnson replied, "Boy, that fire you got burning in your belly, you could do anything you want to do." So he structured a tutorial program 3 days a week. He purchased all the materials we needed and charged me nothing for his time or work. He stated that he tutored another young man from the South many years before I arrived. He said he was proud to say that that young man became a lawyer, was employed by a law firm and doing very well. And he said, "Sammy, I expect great things of you also. And I promise I'll never disappoint you." Reverend Johnson conducted each tutorial session with patience and understanding, which I desperately needed because of my poor educational background. In addition, his teaching method gave me self-confidence and enhanced my learning ability, far beyond my expectation. But with progress came obstacles. With each obstacle I encountered, there was a miracle that made me strong again. For several months, Reverend Johnson molded me into the student he wanted me to be. Before the end of the year, he contacted the Board of Education, City of New York, to arrange to get me into the school system. After some interviews and testing, a great miracle occurred. I was accepted as a high school student. But due to my background, it was hard to believe that I was really in high school. However, I was determined to work as hard as I could to see just how far I could go. And during the first 2 years, passed all my grades and was never late or absent. But one of the most devastating obstacles encountered in my educational journey occurred suddenly without warning. During the process of changing classes one day, we entered the English classroom with time to spare before the second bell. So some of us stood together as usual, talking about girls and automobiles and boxing, which were our favorite topics those days. In the midst of our conversation, the teacher at her desk about 30 feet away said, "Sam Murray, you're late. If you come to my class late again, I will fail you for the term." Our conversation turned into laughter and questions because I was not late. I entered the room with the group and was standing there talking with them. However, I thought the teacher was concerned about something else I may have done wrong and was wanting me to correct my behavior. At work that night, I tried to think of something I may have done to upset her. I couldn't think of anything. As we changed classes the next day and waited for the second bell, she said in an angry, loud voice, "Sam Murray, you are late and I will fail you for the term." At that point, I became very worried because I was never late or absent. But because she appeared to be so angry, I was afraid to say anything to her. Starting that day, she ignored me as if I was never there. I was not permitted to participate in class discussions or answer questions she asked when teaching. She never returned my homework and test papers to me. Finally, I received my report card to show that she really failed me. Of course, this was one of the greatest obstacles I have encountered in school, but I kept quiet about it because I was afraid she would expel me from the school. Finally, during the seventh term, the principal addressed us in the auditorium one day and said that students who failed class and expected to graduate soon should go to summer school and make up the class to graduate. To make up the class if you want to graduate on time. I had a full-time job at the school, a full-time job at the time, and was concerned that summer school would interfere with my work hours. So I sought help from my grade advisor. She wanted to know why I waited so long to report the incident. Although I didn't think anybody would believe me, first of all, and secondly, I was afraid the teacher would have me expelled from the school if I said anything that would upset her. On the following day, my grade advisor asked me, "Sam Murray, what did you do to that teacher?" Before I could answer, she said, when I told her what you said about failing you for no reason, she became very angry and refused to discuss the matter, except to say that she was an experienced teacher and needed no one to tell her how to run her class. The problem was then reported to the principal. He called me in to continue the investigation. At the end of the meeting, he said, "I will have another meeting with you, and you should invite your aunt to join us, and I want you to bring all your test papers and homework papers because I want to see what kind of work you did in that teacher's class." I told him that my test papers and homework papers were never returned to me. I was not permitted to participate in class discussions, so I had no proof of my work in our class. After meeting with my aunt and me at a later date, the principal met with the teacher and my grade advisor, at which time she refused to explain why she accused me of being late when I was not, why she refused to return my homework and test papers, in addition to keeping me out of class discussion and not allowing me to answer questions when she was teaching. Based on his investigation, the principal concluded that I should have failed when I did, and there was no need for me to attend summer school. He therefore made arrangements to have me upgraded to my appropriate class so I could graduate on time. On December 19, 1948, 1 month before graduation, I became the husband of the most beautiful young lady I'd ever seen. When we walked down the aisle, I was 20 years old and she was 21. On January 27, 1949, she was there to witness my graduation from high school. It was a huge miracle. I graduated from high school. After graduation, my focus shifted from the educational journey I was on for so many years to searching for the best job I could find to support my family. Our first son was born 1 year after we were married, and I found a better job with higher salary the same year. But the company went out of business after 5 years. My next job lasted only 2 years. After that, I became a bus driver with a good salary. But at the time, I was on the list waiting to become a New York City firefighter. After driving buses for 2 years, I was called to the New York City Fire Department, which was not just a job, it was a career. It would allow me to support my family as I wanted to. In addition, the work schedule provided so much time off that I started thinking about going to school again. But at the time, I was out of high school for 23 years. I was 43 years old. So I didn't think I had a good chance getting into college. So I considered it another miracle when Queens College accepted me. Just 2 years after my eldest son graduated from that institution at 20 years old. I am happy to say that he became a lawyer that I'm very proud of. During my last semester on campus, I was joined by my youngest son, Vernon. We had a chance to hang out on campus a few times before I graduated. And I'm proud to say that Dr. Vernon Murray earned a PhD in marketing and has been a college professor now for more than 30 years. I earned a Bachelor of Arts degree at Queens College in 2 years. At Fordham University, I earned a Master of Science in 1 year, a professor's diploma in 2 years, and the degree of Doctor of Education in 8 years. My educational journey wasn't easy, but I was blessed with good health and a determination to do what I wanted to do, and I thank God for that. At Fordham University School of Education, I was awarded the 1998 Achievement Award. The United States Congress awarded me the Congressional Achievement Award in 2018 and again in 2019. In 2024, President Joe Biden honored me with the Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award. I'm very grateful to Fordham University, the United States Congress, and the President of the United States, Joe Biden, for the Achievement Awards. In conclusion, I wish you Godspeed and success in all of your endeavors. And I urge all of you to avoid people, places, and things that will lead you to trouble. Please let me repeat that. I urge all of you to avoid people, places, and things that will lead you to trouble. You have a right to be free. Don't settle for less. I also urge you to establish your goals. Keep them in focus. Work hard to attain them, because you'll never know what you can do until you try. Also, as often as you look into a mirror, when you look into a mirror, you'll see a very special person who deserves the very best. So take good care of yourself. I wish you nothing less. God bless you.